What's up, you guys? This is Clark Smith Adventures. This is part 2 of my haunted childhood stories. These are true stories from my childhood. And the story I'm about to tell, there is a trigger warning on it. It is that, it is that scary. This really did happen to me as a child. So, I don't know what kind of trigger warning this would be. I don't know if this is like SA trigger warning or what, but I'm just going to tell it. My stomach hurts. Mind you, I have not talked about really these stories to anyone. One, because people don't believe me ever. How could someone, have this much things going on, but I totally am telling the truth. As God is my witness, I'm telling the truth. So this is part 2. We moved into a house. It was it's called a California style townhome. And they were built in the 80s. And what they remind you of is, the house from like Poltergeist. With that like crazy stairway. It was like that. With the stairs, kind of like open. But ours went up and then there was a landing, and then they went up again. We moved in there when I was about 5 from the other haunted house. And I made friends very quickly. There was a lot of kids in the neighborhood. And where we lived at the end. And it's not a big community. Like in the 80s, if you lived in something like this, you were doing pretty good. Not that my parents are rich or anything, but, it was a 4-bedroom, California style townhome. Not very big, not very glamorous, but, it was okay. So I think the first experience that I remember having as a child is right beside the townhouse where I was at, the group of townhouses that I was at. There was a big field, because I guess developers were going to come in and they were going to put something in there, but that field was there. And as a child with your friends, you'd ride your bike around and you'd go out in the field and you'd play, and it was the 80s. Like our parents literally were just like, "Bye, go play, get the hell out of the house." So we would be out there like 5, 6 years old playing in this field. And I remember either my brother or my brother's friends finding arrowheads, like an arrowhead, or maybe it was like the neighbors' kids or whatever. They find arrowheads in that field a lot. This is in Maryland, mind you. Haunted ass Maryland. So I remember one day I'm out in the field and I'm playing with the neighbor kids, and we were doing something, and then they ran, and I was like, where did they go? And I'm out in this field by myself. We were playing like tag or something. Hide and seek. I think a hide and seek. So I looked up and I see a Native American man in this field. Like a solid figure Native American man. Back then, when I was a kid, I didn't realize it was a Native American man. I just saw this man. But now, thinking back, he definitely was not like a white person. Like, you know what I mean? Like he was just standing in this field about 30 feet from me. And he had this look on his face just like just staring. And I'm like, okay. Hi, Mr. Native American man. I looked around for my friends. They were hiding. I look up, he's standing 10 feet from me. And and I said, hi. Because I'm a child. You know, thinking, like, now it kind of freaks me out. But back then, you know, I was a fearless child. Like, I wasn't scared of shit. I wasn't scared of swimming. I wasn't scared of Santa. I wasn't scared of roller coasters. Like, I was fearless. Like, I would do anything. And he just would look at me. And he'd, like, look away. And this man he had, like, long hair. It was in a ponytail. He had on, like, this, like, blouse kind of outfit. And he had on these, like, pants with these, like, fringes and these boots. And he was definitely Native American. That was the first experience that I remember having. The land attached to this house was definitely had a vibe to it. We lived there probably like 4 or 5 years. And something was up with that place. It had like a life of its own, if you know what I mean. I remember that the neighbor I would go play over. Okay, let me back up. The neighbor across the street, it was a African American family, and I remember going over to their house and playing with their kids, and they would like watch me. Like, someone was always watching me. But I remember, you know, we'd play together with the kids and, you know, la-di-da, and they had like older kids. And one day the father decided to end the life of the mother. It was a shocking thing in our neighborhood, and this was like in the 80s. And it was very shocking in our neighborhood. He unalived his wife. I don't know what happened. I was young. I was like maybe 5, 6. Who knows? But that was very traumatic for like the whole neighborhood. And, you know, my parents used to go talk to them and not really hang out with them, but just, you know, chit chat. And I'd go over to their house and play with the kids and la-di-da. And I remember going outside and looking over towards their house, because it was weird. It was a weird concept to me. That was like the first time that, you know, someone that I knew was no longer here. I didn't really understand. And I would look and I would see the unalived mother sitting on the porch. Like, how do I explain this? Like this, like, solid figure. I'd see her all the time for months. And then I stopped seeing her. And I never really thought of any, you know, I never really said anything or but I would see her. The father, of course, did go to prison. I don't know what happened to the kids. I know the house sat vacant for a long time. And then they got renters in there. And then I think the first set of renters didn't last long renting that place. So, surprise, surprise there. When something traumatic happens, there's a lot of energy. And I just remember they didn't live there long. And then someone else bought it. And I never heard anything ever again. Then another thing that would happen a lot for probably a year, almost consistently, almost every day, was in my bedroom at night. I would be scared to death. The house scared me to death. That house, I still think about that place to this day. That house gave me PTSD as a child. I was freaked out in that house. My room was creepy. I would find myself so scared, I would crawl underneath my bed. Because I was little. I was 4 or 5, whatever. And I'd wake up underneath my bed. I was so scared. But what I would see every night, if no one was there, if I was sleeping in my room by myself, like if I had a friend over, nothing would happen. But every night, my closet door would open. Every night. And I'd immediately put the covers over my head and kind of peek out like, oh my gosh, is that thing again? And I would see a hand come out of the closet door. This dark, wiry, veiny, decrepit hand come out of the door. And then open the door. And then this lady, who I thought was a witch, she looked like a witch. She would look at me and look at me like this and be like, every night. Every night. Then I'd be like scared. Go underneath the covers. Look up. She'd be there and she'd be like, come here. And I'd be like, oh, hell. No, of course she didn't have a cigarette in her mouth. I'm smoking. But I thought, this is a witch. And thinking back, now I think she was like a Native American. So definitely, we probably lived on Native American ground. The house was built over Native American ground. The worst thing was there was a 6'8", 7 foot tall creature I would see in that house upstairs in my brother's bedroom. How it goes is, I hate talking about this because this freaked me out. So how it goes is you go up the stairs, turn, and go up another flight of stairs. When you get to the top of the stairs, to the left was my brother's room and a spare bedroom. You pass that, and then there was a bathroom, my parents' bedroom, and my bedroom right beside my parents' bedroom. And many nights I remember running into my parents' bedroom. I'm like, I can't take this shit. Like, I'm 5 years old. I can't take this son of a bitch, this freaking shit. So the creature, I would go upstairs. Of course, like my mother or someone would be like, Edie, go upstairs and get my thing in my bedroom. And I'm like, son of a bitch. I would turn on every light because it would freak me out. I'm a little kid. So I go up and I run real quick past where I saw that demon creature. It was like a demon creature. And I go into my parents' bedroom. I would get what my mother wanted. And then I'm upstairs. I'm starting to come out into the hallway to go back down to give it to my mother. And all the lights would go off. And I would hear. And I used to blame my brother, of course. And many times it wasn't him. But this happened on probably 1 or 2 occasions. And there was a time where I would start going upstairs and that thing would try to chase me. He would come full speed out of my brother's bedroom like, ah, and try to get me. This creature looked like a demon. Furry, black, dark, hooved feet, pointy antlers type horns. It looked like Satan. It looked like the devil. And I'm a little kid. Imagine how traumatizing this was as a child. And I knew back then. I knew. I would say, oh, he's going to get me. Or, the thing scares. There's something in my brother's bedroom. No matter what. It was like, it was just your imagination. You've watched too many whatever shows. Because it was the 80s. We used to watch whatever. It wasn't like it is today. These kids are very shielded, from society and life. But then I started having the same dream for months. The same dream for months. Where I'd be on the couch downstairs. No one was home. I'm a little kid. It was pitch black dark. And I'm like, Mommy, Daddy. I'm calling for people. No one. And I would go up the stairs. In my dream, I would get to the top of the stairs. And that creature would grab me and take me into my brother's room and try to do things to me. And I'd scream and I'd fight him, and I could smell his breath. And I could feel in my dream the fur and the power and the muscles on this creature do things to me, try to hurt me, try to pull off my clothing, try to just do stuff to me, scare me, hurt me, cut me. And this scared the shit out of me for months. I had the same dream for months. Until it went away when my brother has a thing. It's, I shouldn't put all his business out here like this, but, you know, he has a thing where it affects his bones. Okay. He was playing football when he was a kid. We lived in that house. And, he broke his leg. It was a bad break. He was in traction. And, they put him in the hospital bed because he had to, you know, be in recovery. My parents had to work. So, you know, you got me. I'm like 7, 8. He's like 9, 10, maybe 11. I don't know. At that time, you got him in, they put him in my bedroom because so that, like, if he needed something in the middle of the night, my parents could get up. And so, and this was the 80s. Like, they had to work, you know. We were not rich. There was really no one. I mean, people would stop by and check in and try to help out. But, you know, people had their own lives. I mean, and I remember, you know, helping him. He was to a bed. You know, he was stationed to a bed all day, 24/7, for maybe like a month or two. Just since, you know, because he had pins and stuff in his leg and had to, you know, he had to stay like that. So I remember like helping him, getting him drinks or food or whatever. He couldn't move, so he could, you know, he had to use the bathroom. And I remember like I'm like, frick, I'm like 7 years old, 8 years old. Like, you know, here's the thing so you can pee. Anyway, you know, which I have no problem doing that. It was fine. He's my brother. But they stuck me in my brother's room where the monster was. And by that time I was a little bit older. And I started hearing him. I started hearing this creature again. Because there was a time where it would cease. It would stop. You know. But then when they stuck me into that room, it ramped up a little bit. And I saw him in the corner, and that was him. Basically, he'd be in the corner like that. Creepy as shit. And then I got sick of it. Because, you know, I'm a kid. I got sick of that. So I said, you leave me alone. You don't touch me. You don't bother me. You don't scare me. By the power of God, you leave me alone. And he did. That worked. Like that worked. He left me alone. Just freaking nuts. Creepy. Another thing that happened. This is not really this is not paranormal. But like my dad's the type, when we were kids, he would just be like, okay, you know, like whatever. So I remember one time he took us to the record store, because back then we had records, and I think there was like tape recorders or, you know, anyway, I was like 6 years old. 6 years old, mind you. I had a Winnie the Pooh record player. He took us to the record store. And he said, you guys have been good. You can pick out an album. Whatever you want. We're like, okay. We didn't know music like that. Like, you know, we knew a few songs here and there. I think my brother, I don't know who my brother picked, but I think my brother picked like Billy Ocean or something. Like, I want to be your lover, lover, lover boy. So anyway, I didn't know who to pick. And I came across this album, and it was Motley Crue. I didn't even know who they were. But on the album, it was like the pentagram. And it said, "Shout at the Devil." And I looked on the back, and I'm like, oh, they're pretty. Those are pretty guys or girls. I didn't even, you know, you're a kid. I said, Daddy, 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 I want this album. He's like, are you sure? I thought they were pretty because they had the makeup, and it was the 80s glam rock band, heavy metal. I didn't know any of their songs at all. But I was like, yeah, I want this album. And he's like, okay. So he buys his 6-year-old an album. I get home. I put it on my little Winnie the Pooh record player. And the first song is like, shout, shout, shout at the devil. I was like, oh my God. What is this? So that was like my first introduction to music. I didn't know, you know, but I listened to it. You know, I had like Disney records, and then I have Motley Crue, Shout at the Devil. I had no idea what was going on, but maybe that stirred something up. Maybe that conjured something. I don't know. I was a very open child, as it is. I'm trying to think, like, that experience scared the shit out of me. And for that creature to be touching me, and it felt so real. And when I'm talking about touching, I'm talking about like molesting. Like molesting in my dream every night for months. Maybe that meant something else. Because, you know, they say like when you dream, it's usually like the opposite of, you know, or maybe it's like a situation or a thing that you're trying to deal with or overcome, or I don't know. I just know that I would hear it in real life. I would see it in real life. But the dream is where it really got me. I hated going up the stairs. I hated it. I would hear it breathing. I would hear that thing breathing. I get up for like 3 steps up to the top of the stairs. And I'd hear it breathing and laughing. And I remember also one night I was so scared in my bedroom with that witch lady, who I think now is a Native American. I don't know. That I peed the bed because I was like, I ain't going to the bathroom. I ain't getting up out of this bed. Oh no. And I fell asleep, and then I woke up and I had wet the bed because I was so scared. Like I didn't want to get out of that bed. But that was part 2. There is more to come. Things I mean, this is usually, typically I've pretty much gone through something every month of every year of my life. I'm 51. I still see things. Not as bad as it was when I was a kid. I mean, when I see stuff now, it's very subtle. And I'm like, oh. And then that's it. But as a child, even in my like teenage years, 20s, some in my 30s, some in my 40s, you know, I would see and experience things. My goal here is with these story times, this haunted childhood thing I'm doing is I want to get on a haunted or ghost podcast. Because personally, I listen to podcasts and I feel that I have scarier stories and more that's happened to me than any of those people. So if anyone's listening that has a podcast and wants to have me on there, I know I'm not the best narrator. I do have that Maryland accent. You know, sometimes I stumble over my words, this and that. But I would love to be on a podcast and just tell all my experiences. So, thank you for listening. I do appreciate it. And if you have a scary story that you want to share, definitely let me know. I would love to read some of y'all's experiences, that you guys have. All right? Till next time, there will be a part 3. Mwah. Love y'all. Bye.